Hello and welcome to Nintendo Pals Podcast, the show all about Nintendo and friendship. I am joined by my regular co-host, permanent guest, Micah.
Yep.
And I'm also joined by Eli from Barely a Gaming Podcast. And today we are going to be reviewing Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven, a fantastic game. What do you guys think? You ready to jump into it?
Yep.
Jump right in.
Let's jump right in. All right. So, usually when we do reviews, we cover and talk about story, we talk about graphics, we talk about gameplay, and we talk about music. Those are kind of the four areas that we categorize. What do you guys want to start with? Talking Gloomhaven.
That first one you said. See, you also don't
Story.
remember.
Story, yeah. Yeah, story. Well, what makes most sense to talk about first in this?
Any of those components probably make sense. Easiest probably to talk about, maybe the music is probably the easiest. I can hear the music in my head as we talk about Gloomhaven, I think.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it fits the theme really, really well. As someone who didn't play the board game version of it first and only played the digital version first, I definitely associate the game with the music that's played in it.
I guess we should maybe take a step back and talk about Gloomhaven and what it is. So Gloomhaven, because I didn't even think to mention the board game aspect of it. Gloomhaven was originally a board game that was kickstarted. How do you say that? Kickstarted. It was kickstarted. I'm not gonna even try and guess what year it was kickstarted, but it's been around for a while, and it is the #1 rated game on Board Game Geek, which is kind of the like IMDb of board games, right? It's like the leading website authority on game ratings. And so it was a really highly rated board game, and then it was announced that they would be making a digital version of it. Now the board game is I own the board game. You don't own the board game, right?
Yeah, Jaws of the Lion.
Oh, you have the Jaws of the Lion expansion. Well, even that you can kind of can you? It's like it's really top one up here if you're watching the video version of the podcast. Even that's big. But the original game is like 25 pounds. The box is massive. It's huge. And the game is a lot. It's long. It has over 100 scenarios, and you're playing with this like progressive story, and you have different heroes that will go through their whole like life, and then they'll retire and you'll pick a new hero, and you're playing through all these 100 scenarios. Anyways, you can imagine a game this big is a lot to set up, so the digital version cuts all that because it does it for you, right? It does a lot of the managing the enemies and all of that, so it works really well as a video game. Is where I was trying to go with this. But yeah, the music, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, just going along with what you were saying too. I can't, off the top of my head, think of a better board game to video game adaptation than Gloomhaven. Just because they went a little bit above and beyond what you see with a lot of board game to video game adaptations, where they actually added in animations and things like that. They took some time to detail what the enemies would look like and things like that. It's not just a flat adaptation. It's more of a 3D one.
Yeah, and I got some advice from the guy who made the games, Isaac
Newton?
Child. I don't remember what his name is, but like he made suggestions essentially. So it has some like gameplay tweaks a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like a revised second better edition to Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I love how you said that, Eli, because it doesn't feel like a board game adaptation. It feels like it was a video game first, if that makes any sense. I don't know if anybody out there's played any video game versions of board games, but most of the time they're kind of just like a straight port of what the board game is, and they I wouldn't say they're low effort, but they're not as high effort as Gloomhaven is. So they did a lot to make the game a lot more approachable. So music and like history of the game aside, the gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay. So Gloomhaven is a complicated game, and if you look up reviews right now, I think what were you saying? All the reviews were saying
a couple reviews for the console version were that it was essentially too complicated. They didn't want to spend the time to get into it.
Yeah, it's a bit complex. You are working with a deck of cards that you have put together. Your character can hold. It depends on
Depends on the character.
Depends on the character how many cards you can have, and you are running through your deck. And each time you have to reshuffle your deck, you basically have to pull out a card permanently. So that's kind of like what dictates the time length of the game. Each round of the game is when you run out of cards. Your character gets exhausted and you lose.
Yeah, I would say one of the other tricky parts of the game is that you have top half of a card and you have bottom half of the card. And as you play, you have to choose either the top half action of a card and the bottom action of a card. So you always play two cards, a top of a card and a bottom of a card. And so sometimes it can be tricky when you're starting out.
Yeah, we mix it up all the time. I think
And
even
you
still
play two tops and
you're
realize afterwards
that you can't do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
and the game won't let you. All right, it'll be like you have to pick the top and the bottom section of that one. Yeah, yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, though. I don't know. I think there are people that kind of fall on either side of that rule, but I just think it's another piece of the strategy. You have to go into selecting your cards. Some people find that a little bit cheap, maybe a little bit, but I just think it adds another layer of strategy.
Yeah, it requires planning. It's very much an RPG where you have to manage your cards, your resources, to be able to move and attack and do other actions that are needed to complete each of the scenarios. Now, most of the scenarios vary wildly. Like I said, there's like over 100 in the base game, and I think there's DLC packs that give more scenarios. And they go from things like, oh, you have to kill everything in this room to go collect this specific item at the end of a dungeon. We had one where we had to basically do like a heist, right? Where we had to like get a thing and then get out because the security goes off and then all these things appear.
Like the turrets.
Oh man, that was brutal. And so it changes up a lot based off the scenarios that you're playing. And that to me is really fun. And that's like the specific game battles, but this is all connected with the overarching map and world of Gloomhaven. You are going to each of these missions from the like world map, and there's like travel to and travel back. And those are usually like a little story scenario that you have to
the road events.
Yeah, make a decision and see what happens. Those can change how the next battle will go. And then on top of all that, you're trying to complete objectives for your character to be able to level them up because you gain experience and your character levels up and you get more cards and more abilities. And then your character gets to a certain point when they finish their like personal mission objective. What are those called?
Personal goal.
Your personal goal, that they retire, and then you build a new character. And then your new character starts at whatever like your party level is. So it's really fun because you get to try out a whole bunch of different mechanics, and each of the characters plays pretty wildly differently.
Yeah.
My favorite character is the bard one, the soothsinger, that basically boosts and buffs the rest of the party. There's the spell weaver that is really good, is a really high damager, but
especially area attacks,
but also is a bit squishy. There's brawler characters, there's summoners, there's a whole bunch, and you have to do things to unlock each of the characters as you're going through as well. So, yeah. I think that about covers it for gameplay.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you guys think of the gameplay overall?
It's real good.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, Really, really fun game, especially to play with other people. As you're all trying to strategize and come up with the best way to take out, certain enemies that are in a room.
Not step on each other's toes and ruin each other's plans.
It has
fun.
Yeah, it has 4-player up to 4-player multiplayer. And I've played it 2-player as well. We've done a bunch of 3-person. It scales based off how many people you have playing. And oh yeah, I'd say it's really fantastic. A huge learning curve at the beginning,
Yeah.
but it's a very rewarding system once you've mastered it and understand your character build and what you're going for. And you can do different builds for the same character and go for like different.
Every time you level up, you have an option between 2 different cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Overall, I highly recommend that aspect of it. So I guess we've talked music, gameplay. We talked about story. Kind of ties in with the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, I think the story itself is pretty fun, pretty interesting. A lot of times you go into different levels and it will have like an intro to that level, like what the story is.
The
The
narrator.
narrator's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. So the narrator's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love his accent, man.
yeah, I think
not
it's
gonna
really
try and
fun. Lots of twists and turns to the story, I would say.
It feels like the overarching story. Well, first off, it's so long that it's like hard to follow the like
Mhm.
big, huge story.
We're like halfway through. We've been playing for like 2 years.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't really know what's going
up to
on.
once a week.
Oh,
We
that's-
kind of forgot.
that's what I was gonna say was the problem with the story is that the scenarios are so long, and especially if you take time to do the side quests,
There's
like
so many side
you kind of
quests.
forget what's going on with the story,
I have
but
no idea.
you kind of keep playing because the gameplay is so good. Like that's kind of what I feel like. I think the story itself is good, probably if you read it all, all at once, but it gets kind of disjointed because of how long the scenarios are.
100% agree.
Yeah.
If you fail a scenario, which we have done a lot. Right.
No.
No, we're really good at this game. We're super good at this
Some
game.
of us have failed a lot.
If you fail a scenario, you got to go back and do it again. And yeah, but each of the like side quests can have little chains between different things you have to do. Like we had that whole side thing with a voice that was reaching out to us, and we could choose to help the voice or to try and
Everyone was all like,
hurt the voice.
"This voice is so evil. We should all destroy it." But
Did-
one of us, I think, was the voice of reason.
Didn't
It was
we end
like,
up helping it?
There's literally no proof this voice is evil. That's just what people said. And then we all died.
And that was the end of the game. What a great story. Yeah, so I think there is like a really cool overarching story, but again, the scenarios are long and it's hard to stick with the game to the point where you will remember it.
Yeah, and
I-
part of
it's-
that is because we played this before. It's kind of hard sometimes for all of us to be available.
It does take longer too when you play with a group of 4 versus a group of 2. I feel like the scenarios are probably twice as long, but
Yeah.
twice as fun as well, probably. I don't know if they're twice as fun, but they do take twice as long.
Nothing.
Yeah.
The satisfaction of these 4-person scenarios where we have someone like barely make it, and then like some hero move that maybe like Micah will come in and save the last person so that everybody's still alive at the end of the scenario.
I don't know if that's
We
quite
either-
how that works.
The Berserker
Oh,
finisher, we're all like, I think it was going to be really close, and because my Berserker character can do great things at very low health, and I also drew like a ×2 or something, I just did an absurd amount of damage to some boss.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was the perfect draw to be able to make it, so we actually won.
I was just gonna say this makes it sound like we're the perfect team coming in to save each other at the last minute. I feel like half the time is one of us stealing all the gold.
That person's not in the room.
Like, most of the time, I think we all take a turn in stealing all the gold that's in the room. But
Every once in a while.
Not me,
that's part
according
of the
to my
fun.
character's wallet.
Yeah.
Part of the fun.
Uh,
It's the treasure chests in the room.
So if any of this is like piquing your interest, if you have these kind of like 4-player tabletop games that you play with your group of friends, and I highly recommend Gloomhaven as one to add into the mix. It's very fun, and the digital version is superior, in my opinion, versus getting just the board game because it handles so much of your setup, cleanup, and management of what is going on in the game.
It's very quick, and they do have the expansion for Jaws of the Lion as well out. So there's tons of content for it. Also, like, we're doing the review this week. It came out on Switch just recently on the 18th, so that's good to point out as well. Definitely a great place to pick it up.
Yes.
I think it has crossplay with everything.
I think you're right.
Don't quote us on it, but yeah, we think.
But we all think that.
We all think it. So last thing we want to cover is graphics, and I think it's serviceable to the game. I wouldn't say this isn't Baldur's Gate 3 graphic.
It almost looks better in some ways.
Really?
I mean, sometimes Baldur's Gate can have some kind of wonky animations.
Yeah, well, there's
It's
some
not
wonky
quite
stuff that happens
lifelike.
in Gloomhaven, especially the walls, where your camera, like, if you're not aiming your camera in the right angle, like a wall will be there that you can't see, and then you try and walk through, and you're like, why can't I go through here? And it's there's a wall there, or there's a door, it's closed. But it's fine. Like it's not it's great actually. Not like top tier, like, oh my goodness, you're playing this game for its high graphics, but it's not like bad.
It's like an IGN 7 out of 10. Some would
Yeah.
It looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good. Yeah. So I think that's it, man. I think we about covered it for Gloomhaven.
Mind Thief is the best.
What?
Mind Thief is the best.
Mind Thief is the best.
You guys leave scores on these reviews?
Oh yeah, we usually do.
We do actually.
Ooh, I wanna leave the
So
score.
what we usually like kind of combine to come up with a score, but Eli, what are you thinking you'd score this game at?
Well, this is how I'd break it down based
Okay.
off those categories. Story, probably like 7 out of 10, just because it can be disjointed. Music, probably like an 8 out of 10.
Gameplay.
One of the other two.
Gameplay is like a 10 out of 10, I would say. And then what's the other one?
Graphics.
Graphics are like a 7 out of 10. But overall, like, those numbers don't add up like 1 to 1. Overall, I would say it's like a, I don't know, do you do a point scale? Like a 9 point something?
We haven't.
I would do
Or did we? I don't remember. I don't think we have. No.
I would probably do a 9 out of 10, just because the gameplay is so good. It carries the rest of it. It doesn't really matter as much on the other aspects. The gameplay itself is just so good. Like, definitely worth it to play with friends, especially. Like, there's not a better option that I can think of for a good tabletop experience, like with friends on the Switch.
On the Switch, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, there's Baldur's Gate 3, which is
That's
Baldur's
So,
Gate
but
3
Tabletop.
is
those are like
it's kind of tabletop.
those
yeah.
are like our two party games that we're currently playing through like a campaign together. In fact, Baldur's Gate 3 took over the Gloomhaven one, but we will be getting back to it because we want to finish it someday.
And if you consider Divinity Original Sin 2 a tabletop, then I guess there's some competition there. But
Oh
I was thinking just straight up like a board game adaptation. It's
okay.
clearly the best.
For sure. What would you score it at, Micah? Because I agree with Eli. I think I would lean more towards an 8. Just because it is like such a niche and specific type of game. And I think that the gameplay is like I agree. All your segment scores. But because you have the like 2 that are kind of like 7s out of 10, I think it should be a little lower. But I don't know. We're talking like real semantics here. It's in between.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
9.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. But 8.5 or 9 is kind of what I'd go for.
Well, let's
If
just
there weren't oozes, definitely a 9. Those are fun
let's break ground here, and we're gonna give this a decimal value. Let's do an 8.5 out of 10 for Gloomhaven. That's right in the middle. Nice even.
All right, nobody's happy. No, just kidding.
Yeah, perfect.
Just kidding. No, it's good.
8.5 out of 10 for Gloomhaven. Well, if you are listening to this on your podcast listening app of choice, and there's a comment section, leave us a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment down below. What do you think of Gloomhaven? Have you tried the game? What score would you give it? And please give this video a thumbs up. like, review, all the good buttons, positive buttons. Please give them to us. Micah, where can people find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitch at Micah Prime.
You can find me at Andros1 on Twitch and YouTube and other places. Eli, where can people find you?
You can find us at Barely AGP on Twitter. Well, X. I've been saying that. X.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
X, I
just call it
suppose.
Twitter.
Confuse everyone.
We're gonna spite Elon Musk. And we want to give a shout out to our fantastic supporters over on Patreon, patreon.com/NintendoPals, where for as little as $1 a month, you can be a part of making this magic happen. And you can be a part of our Patreon Poke Rap, which, unfortunately, since we're recording remote this week, we don't have a Patreon Poke Rap. So we'll just shout you out here. We have
Nick Lanoy,
Adorable Will,
Monkey Thunder,
Madison, aka Purple Riolu,
Lava Plays,
John Cummins,
Third Strongest Mole,
Cosmic,
Little Miss 7. It's a test of our reading ability as well.
How fast can you read?
Tim A. Is that what I said last time?
Yeah,
I forgot the A that I said. Okay, I got
Timothy
confused.
Off, Mr. Timothy Off,
aka Neoprime 33, aka Nintendo Dad number 4.
Seth Sturgill, aka $2 Hero,
Okay, Liam, aka
LPD,
LPD,
Ryan Reese,
aka Rizzle, and then Schlimtor
and we have Mute Dog the Gamer, which I skipped one.
and Spider Shan, who is here right now listening. Thanks, Spider Shan. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for your support, and we will talk to you in the next episode. Bye bye.